Sunday afternoon. And thank you so much for joining in. I'm very excited to have Rajdeep and his team today with us because they are my peers in the counseling network. We speak every time, all the time, to understand, share, knowledge, share, share challenges, strategies, coaching techniques, things that are happening in the counseling world and the college world, and how SAT is important. So we keep on discussing a lot about that internally, and I thought this is a good time when we are moving towards, selecting DP subjects or understanding better what college are looking at. So I thought this is a good time for Rajdeep to come and actually share from the expert, directly from the expert to the parent about what exactly we need to know, its relevance, what exactly is the SAT, how do we go about it, which test is good, what time to take. So from the mechanics of the testing to the dynamics of what it does in, overall in a big picture, I think, Rajdeep and his team are quite nuanced and are quite the experts in the business today. So I thought we should have this access for our parents to understand when there is so much happening on the digital platforms and social media all about SAT. I thought it's a good idea for our parents to join in and understand it. Should we even consider it? If yes, how? What are the next steps to go about it? So over to you, Rajdeep. And thank you for doing this for us students and parents. I really appreciate it. Over to you.
Pleasure, Prasija. Thanks. I will quickly jump onto the presentation. Thanks for the lovely introduction, Prasija. First of all, good afternoon to one and all, and thanks for joining in on Sunday afternoon. I know it was on a very, very short notice, and it's on a Sunday afternoon. But thanks for joining in. We see a good attendance coming in, which clearly showcase that people are interested in what we are going to talk about today. And as the slide says, right? So we are going to talk about the SATs, ACTs. I'll have a brief about the PSAT and then about the AP exam. So the idea here is that we are going to cover about the standardized testing that one has to look at when you are looking to look at options for study abroad and also for colleges in India, right? So I will try and cover up most of these topics in the next 40-45 minutes. If in case you guys have any questions related to SAT, ACT, APs, PSAT, please put it on the chat section. We would, towards the end, after my presentation, we're going to open the Q&A sessions. All the questions which are already there, we will first take those. And at the end, if in case you have further question, we'll be opening the stage for the Q&A as well. So with that, let me start with the presentation and let me start with a quick introduction. So I'm Rajdeep Pondir. I'm the CEO of co-founder of Reviser, and I'm a BITS Planning graduate. So Reviser is a high school support company where we assist students worldwide to help them achieve their academic goals. And our main focus student group is grade 9 to grade 12, and obviously their parents. We come with the expertise, as Prasija ma'am already mentioned. We talk about PSAT, we do SATs, ACTs, and AP exam, which is advanced placement courses. We've been in this industry for about 6 years now. We have catered to about 3,500 odd students so far. And apart from 15 plus cities, we have also catered to about 6 plus countries so far in the last 6 years. With that short introduction, let me quickly jump on to the key takeaways from today's webinar. We will obviously be focusing on the very important topic about importance of SAT, ACT in the admission process, in the college admission process. Are they relevant? Are they irrelevant now? There's a lot of noise around colleges going test optional, colleges going test flying. So what is it all about? Should you take it? Should you not take it? If you should take it, when should you take it? All those questions we will try and cover up in today's webinar. And then very important question that comes in, what is the difference between SAT and ACT? Do I need to take both? Do I need to take one? If I need to take one, which one should I take? And why should I take that exam, right? So, we'll try and help you understand some strategies in terms of how you can pick the right test for yourself or for your child, right? And then we are going to talk about the very latest news that we just came in a couple of weeks back about the changes that are going to happen in SAT starting March 2023 for Indian students. So we will keep some focus on that as well. Right after that, we'll jump on to who, when, and why should you write the AP exam, right? So this is becoming a very, very hot topic now, and more so often because, there used to be something called subject SAT, which is no longer offered by the college board. And hence AP has gained a lot more popularity in the last one and a half years, right? So we're going to focus on this. Should you write it? Should you not write it? Who should write it? Why should you write it, right? And after that, we're going to very important piece, which is when should you start preparing for all of this, right? There are too many things. This is standardized testing is just one part of it. You have your entire college application process and whatnot, which, Procedure Ma'am is helping you out in school. Where do you fit in these pieces in that entire puzzle? So we will try and help you in that entire planning. And as I said, at the end of the webinar, we would be sending you the recording of this webinar as well, if in case you forget to, if in case you want to go back and revisit any of the content. And also we would be sending you a link for our calendar invites, if in case you want to set up one-on-one consultation session, because these timelines will vary from child to child. We're going to give you a generic timeline, but case by case basis, we can help you sit with you and help you plan your next 2-3 years. With that, let me jump on to the first part, which is the SAT and ACT. And as most of us are aware, right, these are standardized tests for undergrad applicants, which is needed by most of the 4-year colleges in US. They are largely there to determine your college preparedness level. How ready are the child? Is your child is for college, right? That is what they are testing you on. The larger section, if you broadly categorize them, you can say English and Maths. These are the two main areas. They're mandatory by most of the US colleges. But apart from that, there are many other geographies where SATs or ACTs are also acceptable. So we will also try and cover up on that aspect. Let me quickly give you a glance about, what is SAT, what is the major difference between these two exams. So SAT is conducted by an organization called College Board. ACT, on the other hand, is conducted by an organization called ACT.org. So two different companies which are conducting these tests. As of today, SAT happens at the center in pen and paper mode. ACT happens online at the center. SAT happens 5 times a year, which is March, May, August, October, and December. On the other hand, ACT is more often. It happens 7 times a year: Feb, April, June, July, September, October, December. Obviously, because ACT is online, so there is less logistical issues, and hence they are able to conduct the exam more often. In terms of duration of test, SAT is a 3-hour long test. ACT is a 3-hour 40-minute test. So obviously ACT is a longer test, but then that's extra 40 minutes is for an extra optional section. We will talk about that as well. The more important part, right? So if you look at SAT, they are divided into 4 sections. The first one is your reading section, which is largely your comprehension section, wherein you are reading passages. So there are about 5 passages. So you're reading those passages and answering the questions. That's your reading section. Second section, which is your writing section, wherein you have a total of 44 questions and you have a total of 35 minutes. Again, here you have 4 different passages. There are different errors which you need to rectify. These are grammatical errors. And hence, we also say that this is more of a grammar related section, right? That's your second section, which is the writing section. Then you have the third section, which is math without the calculator. There are a total of 20 questions, and you have a total of 25 minutes to solve these questions. There are 2 categories of question there. One is obviously a multiple choice question, wherein you have 4 options and 1 is right. So you choose the correct answer. There's no negative marking. And then they also have second category of question, which is grid in response question, wherein you have to fill in your answer in the grid, right? So there are no options, but you have to fill in your answer in the grid. Please note, this is only in the math section, both in with calculator and without the calculator, right? Then you have the fourth section, which is math with calculator, wherein you have a total of 38 questions and you have 55 minutes to solve these 38 questions, right? And again, MCQs and grid in response, you will see both set of questions here, 30 plus 8, 30 MCQs and 8 grid in response questions. So that's how your SAT structure looks like, which makes it a total of 3-hour long exam. On the contrary, if you look at ACT, there are 4 plus 1 section. There's a 5th section, which is an optional component, which is essay writing, right? Which makes it 3-hour 40 minutes. If you just look at the first 4 components, for example, the first section is your English section. which is very similar to the writing section of SAT, right? So you have to correct the grammar rules. However, the thing which is different to note here is you have a total of 75 questions and you have only 45 minutes to solve those questions, right? So if you look at it, you have roughly about 0.6 minute per question, right? So it's a very, very time intensive exam, which you will see in every section. Like the second section is a math section. You're allowed to use calculator here. Unlike SAT, wherein you are not allowed to use calculator in some part of math section, you're allowed to use in some. Here you are allowed to use the calculator all throughout. And you have a total of 60 questions and you have a total of 60 minutes. That's about 1 minute per question. Again, you have to be really, really quick, as opposed to SAT, wherein you have roughly about 1.5 minutes per question. Then you have the third section, which is the reading section. Again, very similar to the SAT reading section. However, shorter in terms of timeline. You have a total of 4 passages, 40 questions, 10 questions per passage, and you have only 35 minutes to solve those questions again, right? And then the fourth section, which is very, very interesting to note here. And, a lot of parents, I get this query every time my child is, not doing sciences, they are looking to go for economics major or business major and so on. Should they look at ACT because there's a science section in ACT, right? So just to clarify, right, break that myth, there is no science as such in the ACT science section. It's basically a reading section. You are reading the science-based passages and answering the question. So I would consider it at par as reading section. Obviously, if in case you are a science student and you have done a lot of experiments and so on in physics, chemistry, and bio, and if you encounter the same passage, you will be at an advantage because you probably may not have to read the passage completely and you can still answer the question. However, even if not, you can still do it even if you are not a science student, because there is no, you're reading the passages, all the answers are in the passages itself. You don't have to pick things from outside, right? So that's the advantage in the, that's the difference between the SAT and ACT. Now, I think when I talk about, this is all about the sections, right? The important point which we are largely focused on in terms of scores, right? How does the scoring or scaling works? So SAT is total out of 1600 points. So a child can score a maximum of 1600, which is further subdivided into English and maths. English is out of 800, maths is out of 800, so 50-50%. And then English is further subdivided into reading and writing. Reading is out of 400, writing is out of 400, right? So reading 400, writing 400, maths 800. That's how the distribution is in the SAT segment. When you look at ACT, on the other hand, ACT is out of 36 points. Now, you see 4 sections, right? English, maths, reading, science. All of them are scaled out of 36 points. So you will get individual section scores out of 36 points. And at the end, they will find the average of these 4 sections, which becomes your overall final score, right? So you'll have 34, let's say in English, 13 maths, 32 in reading, 13 science, then they find the average of 4. That becomes your ACT final score. That's how the scoring works in these 2 tests. Essays are scored complete separately. They are on a scale of 12-point scale, which is completely different, and they're not part of 36. So they don't affect your 36 score, right? Just to give you a very, very high level perspective comparison of scores, if you get a 1500 out of 1600 in SAT, you are in the 99th percentile. That means you are in the top 1 percentile bracket, right? As compared to ACT, if you get a 34 out of 36, you are in that 99 percentile again, right? So 1500 is very equivalent to 34 in ACT, right? That's the comparison scale. So if you're targeting SAT, and if you're looking for those top colleges, then you're looking at 1500 plus. If you're looking at ACT, then you're looking at 34 plus, right? I hope that kind of helped you to understand on a high level how these 2 papers are, different from each other. Let me jump on to the next thing. Now, this is important. And why is this important? As a student, if you're joining in as a student or as a parent, you would know your child better or you would know yourself better, right? Now, how do you decide whether you should take an SAT or an ACT, right? Obviously, the best approach that we follow at Reviser is we recommend that you write diagnostic tests for both. You write one test for SAT, one test for ACT. Sit with us. Let's analyze both the scores. You after writing the test would figure out which test you are more comfortable while giving, what kind of question you are more comfortable with. And then you decide which test suits you better. And then you go ahead with that test, right? However, if you don't have enough time to do that and you want to, get a 15,000 feet view about difference in the SAT, ACT, now these are the pointers for you. ACT is for something if you are a strong reader. And why do I say that? If you look at SAT, the score, right, it was 50% math and 50% English. However, in ACT, there is English, there is reading, there is science, and all three of them are basically English section, right? So it's 75% English and only 25% math. So if you're so you need to have a strong reader, or you need to be good at English to do well in the ACT section, as compared to SAT, which favors more of analytical thinker who enjoys problem solving. Because in SAT, as I already mentioned multiple times, right, that ACT you have to be really, really quick. On the other hand, SAT, you have enough time. However, the questions are not very straightforward in nature, right? So even if they have to, ask you to find a distance between 2 points, ACT will say, hey, here's the point A coordinates, here are the point B coordinates, tell me the distance between 2 points, right? However, SAT on the other hand, if they have to frame this question, they'll be like, there is Mr. X, he traveled from city this to city this, and the coordinates of city this is this, and coordinate of city this is this. Then, how much is the distance traveled by this individual on a Sunday morning? It'll be more of problem solving. It will be more of word problems that you will encounter in the SAT. That's one of the major difference. Second, best for students who work well under time pressure. ACT, very, very time intensive. So you should be comfortable working with time pressure. Third, science section, which is not in SAT, right? The science section is really about reading comprehension. So, again, as I said, you have to be good at reading, understanding the data, analyzing the data. That is what comes in the science section. It allows the use of calculator throughout. So if you're one of those students who don't like no calculator kind of math questions, you would probably prefer ACT because you are allowed to use calculator all throughout the test in the math section, right? If you look at SAT, on the other hand, as I said, it favors the analytical thinkers. There are more charts, tables, graphs that you will see in all the SAT section, even though if it is a reading section, because, again, as I said, they're looking at the critical thinkers, right? If you're a math lover, if you prefer, then you might prefer SATs because, as I said, 50% SAT, 50% of the test is in maths. No calculator section. If you don't like that, then that might be a problem for SAT. If time limits stress you out, the pace of SAT gives you more time as compared to ACT, right? So these are the different pointers on a high level. Think about math, calculator, no calculator. Think about your reading capabilities. Think about the time pressure. These are the 3-4 factors that you should think about on a very, very high level when you are deciding between the SAT and ACT, right? With that, sorry, just a second. Yes, with that, let me move on to the next slide, wherein I'll talk about the PSAT, and I've just given one single slide for this. So what is PSAT, right? So PSAT for me is like a subset of SAT, right? So if you have a bigger SAT, you have a smaller PSAT, right? This is largely for the students to understand their current preparedness level, or to understand the current preparedness level to SAT, right? And SAT is your current preparedness level to the college. So it's like a stepping stone to the SAT, right? Is it advisable to write it? Is it not advisable to write it? I think that's a very, very personal question. I think it's good to write it because and you understand where are you at this point of time worldwide. It gives you that data point. So I think it's good to write it if in case you can. However, even if you don't write it, there is no downside to it. The only students who should definitely write PSAT is if you're in grade 10th and you are looking for summer schools in your 10th summer break. At that point of time, there are few colleges which give weightage to PSAT scores, right? So if you are one of those students, do some research about the PSAT, and maybe you would want to write the PSAT, which will help you to get into the summer school program, right? So that is one advantage if you're looking for summer school program. The second advantage, as I've mentioned in here, there's something called NMSQT, which is National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test. If in case you are a US citizen I'm talking about the child here. The student is a US citizen. And if you write your PSAT in grade 11, please note, only in grade 11, your PSAT scores accounts for your NMSQT score as well. So you become eligible for a certain set of scholarship competition. If in case, two condition, you have to be a US citizen, B, you have to be writing PSAT in grade 11. If you meet these two criteria, then your PSAT becomes NMSQT, right? So that is second case where you should think about writing the PSAT, because I mean, if in case either you'll get a scholarship, even if you don't, even if you qualify for the next round, it's a good thing to write in your application, and it'll help you to showcase that you are better than your peers or other students. So I think that is one reason why people look at PSAT. If in terms of exam, it's very similar to SAT. You still have all the four sections. You have reading, writing, maths, no calculator, maths calculator. It's just that it's a shorter test, right? So instead of 3 hour, it might be it's like a 2 hour 35 minute test, right? And all the sections will have less number of questions. That's pretty much the difference. And obviously the standard or the difficulty level of question would be lesser here as compared to the SAT, right? So that's another difference between in terms of exam, right? In terms of score, if you want to know, so SAT is out of 1600 point. PSAT on the other hand is out of 1540, right? So depending on how much you get, again, as I said, PSATs are only useful for, I mean, if in case you are applying for the summer school program, right? So that's about the PSAT. Let me get to an important point. Before I actually get into this slide, right, I wanted to talk about this thing, right? So a lot of people have this doubt about, colleges are saying we are test optional, we are test blind. What are these two terms? I want to take care of these two elephants in the room, right? So test optional or test blind, these two are very, very different terms, guys, right? So test optional means if you have done the test, you can submit the SAT scores or ACT scores, and colleges will definitely look at these scores. If in case, because of COVID situation in your country, in your area, the college board or ACT is not able to conduct the exam, then you can skip the exam, and the colleges will not consider this as a negative point. That is all in theory, right? That is test optional. Now, what is test blind? Test blind are those colleges which does not even give you to submit your score. Even if you submit your scores, they will not look at it at all, right? So they will not consider it, irrespective of whether you have done it or not. They're not going to consider this score when they are looking at your candidature for the application in the college, right? So that's how two terms are very, very different. And there are very few schools which have gone test blind. UCs are one of them. But apart from that, you would find very, very small percentage of colleges in US who have gone test blind. Most of the colleges, or the colleges in the last 2 years, because of the pandemic, have gone test optional because of giving a fair chance to everybody. There are countries in Africa and other places where SAT could not been conducted because of pandemic situation and so on. They wanted to give the fair chance, and hence they started with test option. That's how these two terms are different from each other, right? However, if you would have asked me this question 1.5, 2 years back, it was difficult to figure out whether in case of test optional colleges, is it better to submit the score or should we not do it, right? But now I think we have enough data points. We have seen what has happened with the students who did not submit the SAT scores as compared to the students who have submitted the SAT score in test optional colleges, right? And Prasija ma'am, here I would like to probably take your input as well, right? You would have some data points to enlighten us in terms of how it has helped student, or it has probably proved as a disadvantage for any student.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. Just before I get into the data, there's one more category which is called test flexible, right?
Right.
Many universities, as you said, test optional. You might want to take it and report it. You don't want to take it, don't take it. Your application does not get dampened in any way because they have other factors to evaluate. Test blind, they don't even give you an option to report it. So whether you take it or not is immaterial. The third category is again test flexible, where the universities say you either take the SAT or you do the ACT, which means testing is an important part of the evaluation. right? There are many colleges like that. So here, what I have seen, because we deal with mostly international students at Stonehill, um, data from the last 4 5 years, I can just broadly categorize into two sections, like pre-COVID and post-COVID, right?
Right.
So pre-COVID, all universities, there was nothing called as test optional. There was this SAT or ACT data was such an important data point for them to evaluate whether you are in the applicant pool or not in the applicant pool. Every college, even today, if you go and check and just Google the name of the college, let's say for example USC, just put the name of the college on the Google search bar and type SAT average. Just type that score. You will get the data. It's all published on all their college websites. What their average SAT score or ACT score looks like from the previous intake. So you know exactly that even if you take the SAT, even if USC is theoretically test optional, do you have the score to submit to that particular university? Because this is what universities would tell us, that we have not asked you for a score. We are test optional. But if you show us, we cannot unsee it. Means it has gone into the file. So it can dampen your chances if you're submitting a very low SAT score. So there's a lot of question that, Miss, should I report or should I not report? This is a question, right? So look at the university that you're applying to. Find out what their SAT average looks like for reading and what their SAT average for math looks like. If you're in the range, go ahead and apply. If you're not in the range, don't report, right? So we have these discussions when we are strategizing and brainstorming on the final college list. Pre-COVID, it was straightforward. If you're in the selection index, you're in the pool. It can become a ground for rejection, or it can, if the university wants to look at other parts of your portfolio, they might give you an offer. But post-COVID, things have become very tricky, very confusing. There are a lot of internal decision making that the universities are employing now, which we only get to see a glimpse of it, right? So post COVID, this is what I have understood, and it has worked for our students. So whether you report the SAT or do not report the SAT is absolutely fine. A lot of times students and parents are confused that, Miss, I have 5 students in my class who have taken the SAT, they've got a good score, they are reporting. I'm applying to the same college and I'm not reporting the SAT. Am I going to be at a disadvantage? My simple answer is no. You're not going to be at a disadvantage, because the applications are divided into two major pools. One that have reported the standardized testing scores, and the other pool which has not reported the standardized testing scores. So if you're either of the category, you're going to be evaluated among the same peers. So if you are reporting a 1540, where the average is a 1480, you're definitely in the application pool, which means it's a strong data point that you've provided to the university to show that, look, I'm definitely above the rest. I'm in the top 25 percentile or even the top 5 percentile. My application is strong. They look at other things. Great. You go ahead, get an offer, get a scholarship. Come to the pool that you have not reported the SAT. It's just that the whole process remains the same minus the SAT option. So you're not at a disadvantage because everybody in the pool is, nobody has the SAT or ACT, right? So you are going to be evaluated on your high school scores, on your core subjects, what your scores have been looking like, your letters of recommendation, your essays that you write, the story that you tell, the activities that you've done. So there's a lot more that goes into, but in post COVID, due to the uncertainty that has led to some sort of an anxiety within, among parents and students, that whether I'll get in or not get in, have led to the same number of students applying to more number of colleges, which means the volume of applications that is going to universities has tripled from last year, which means you're going to be in a very stiff competition pool. So there are different strategies and approaches that we use if the student doesn't do SAT. Honestly, 2021 has, this present batch has been even like bizarre to say the least, because more and more colleges going test optional means more and more students applying to the same colleges. The number of applicants going into the early decision round, the early action round, and the regular decision round is just it is literally hit it, they have blown it out of the park. Where universities don't really know what to do with these applications. They're just really in, they have their strategies and everything in place, but they are really overwhelmed with the number of applications that are coming through, right? So in that sense, I personally feel that this is what happened with our students. Was some of them who reported the data, they had a good score, they reported it, it was straightforward, they went in, they applied, they got the offers, good. The ones who have not reported the SAT have been like, I don't know what's coming. Some of them have got deferred, some of them have got accepted, some of them are still waiting. So it's we are in a state of confusion. And to my surprise, and this is being very honest, okay, to my surprise, some of our students did apply to the top colleges with absolutely phenomenal scores and great profile, and did not report the SAT because they could not take the SAT or ACT, and last year was really bad. Nobody took it, right? But the interviewers, I mean, all of these top selective universities have something called as alumni interviews and faculty interviews. The interviewers, when they sit to do the interviews, they have a profile snapshot of the student, and the SAT column is blank. The standardized testing column is blank because the student has not reported it. You will not believe, in many of the cases, the university and the faculty and the admissions spent a good amount of time trying to understand what happened, why you didn't take, did you take it and you did not report it. So we felt as if they were trying to fill up that data. So I personally, deep down inside, intuitively feel that the standardized testing still remains an important data point for them to identify objectively the math level and the English level, to identify the rigor. It doesn't mean that if you don't submit the SAT, you're not going to get in. But I feel it's a good data point to have. So my advice to the students is, if you have taken the SAT, you have not got a good score, hence you did not report it. Be honest about it in your interview. Say that I did not get a good score for whatever reasons. There was a personal issue that was going on, or did it clash with my school exams, or was it in the thick of the pandemic, or did the testing center situation impact your decision making and response at the time of the exam. Be honest about it and tell them, because college board, they have the data. Let's be honest, they have the data. A lot of our parents and students think, oh, they don't have the data because I have not reported it. That's not true. They have the data, just that it is not reflecting on your application portal, right? So I tell them that if you are planning the US, if you are planning for scholarship in Canada, if you're planning for some colleges in Italy, if you're planning to apply to some colleges in Singapore, go ahead and do the SAT and do it with a serious attempt. Just don't take it because, oh, everybody's applying, I'm going to do it. Please don't do that. That the moment you register yourself on college board, you're putting yourself out onto a database which is shared with the colleges, and there's no looking back, right? So I feel that it's important that we are registering it. We might as well put in a serious amount of effort and time and get a good score, right? So that's it for our students. There has been a very clear alignment between the students' SAT score, their IB score, and their placement. A student who has been in the range of 1490s have been in the IB range of 39 and 40, and have got those kind of placements in the top 20, top 25. Some with even scholarship, some without scholarship. So that's a very clear alignment, a correlation that I have seen. Versus a student who is getting 38, 39 in school, not getting a good SAT score, ultimately not getting into the top one or two colleges, right? So that is a clear correlation that I have seen. So, and yes, there are some outliers. I'm generalizing here with a small data set that I have. But to say the least, that our students who have been submitting a 1570, 1580 have got the IB 42s, 43s, have got into placements like Stanford, MIT, Dartmouth, waitlisted at Columbia and some places. On the other hand, the students who have been in the range of 1470, 1490 have been in the range of 37, 38, 39 in the IB score, have got offers from UT Austin, Emory, Washington, UCs, right? So they are in the range. Similarly, if I have to speak ACT, our students have reported a 34, 35, 36, that sort of an ACT score, have got 41, 42, 43 in their IB score, have got offers from NYU, and Northwestern and UCLA's and those, the likes of those, right? So from my experience of so many years of doing counseling and closely looking at what SAT data aligns to college placements and its alignment with the final IB score, there is a very strong correlation. So internally as a counselor, it helps me take that decision to make a realistic yet optimistic college choice while we are making the application. Yeah. Over to you, Rashmi.
Great, thanks. Thanks for the entire data point. I think you've hit the nail correctly. I think objectivity, right? I mean, with this, you are giving another data point, right? Which is not, subjective in nature. Your application by and large is subjective. Let's be honest, right? The objective data points are your IB scores and the SAT, AST scores, right? True. And the moment they have it, it becomes easier for the admission person to kind of take a call. right? Same here. I've been talking to a couple of these interviewers. I mean, I've been talking to somebody in Stanford. I mean, he interviews almost about 20 to 30 candidates every year from India. And his thing is, if there are 15 candidates out of 30 or 20 candidates that he has interviewed, if there are 15 who have done the SAT, why the other 5 have not done it, right? So it marks a red flag to him. And in India, if you look at the last 2-year data points, there are only 2 SATs which got cancelled. So I think I would like to give the credit to College Board that they were able to conduct all the exam. It was May last year and May last year. These are the only 2 time when SAT got cancelled, and apart from that, SAT actually happened in India. Same goes for ACT as well, which clearly showcased that there was an opportunity. But yes, I mean, for some reason we decided not to go ahead with it, right? So you, as Prasija said, right, you have to justify it clearly in your application. Why did you not do it? Because in India, the major data point have done it. So you have to be very clear in that approach.
Right. True.
Great. I think with that, let me quickly move on to the next one. I know we have taken a lot of time. The latest changes in SAT, right? So this is very, very important. So this has just been announced almost a month back, which kind of put things slightly differently now, how you need to plan things and so on. And this is especially for the parents who are in whose kids are in grade 9. So the time has been reduced from 3 hours to 2 hours for SAT. And all the changes that I'm talking about is applicable from March 2023. So that is next year. So we still have a year, right? So if you write the SAT before that, you're still writing it with the existing structure. So time is reduced to 2 hours from 3 hours. That's one major change. There'll only be 2 sections instead of 4, and more detail is still awaited on this, which are these 2 sections. But yes, it'll be English and maths, that's for sure. Student will have more time per question. They already had more time in SAT. Now they're saying they will have more time per question. So that's a welcome move. The test will be online. That's a big change. That means they are moving towards ACT. The ACT was online. SAT will also be online. Will be taken. The change here is you still have to go to a center and do this. However, they will allow you to do this test in your machine. You can carry your laptop or tablet. They will install a software in it, and that's how you can do the test. So that is a difference between the SAT and ACT. In ACT, you have to do it on the machine provided by them. And sometimes, you're not very comfortable with it and you're a bit iffy. However, this is a welcome move again. The testing app would save students' progress while they're working. And again, they've learned from the mistakes which ACT has done in the past. When 2 years back, when ACT went online, we had students who came back and said, the system the system was slow and so on. And here, this is again a welcome move where, they're saying if something happens to the system, your progress will get saved. And after the system resumes, you can restart your work, right? So which is a great thing. They're allowing to use the calculate throughout the math section. That means, again, a realignment with ACT. In the ACT, you can use math section, you can use calculator throughout. So again, this becomes another important change. Very, very important change for me as a test prep company. The test is going to be adaptive in nature, which is not even in ACT. By adaptive, what I mean, so they will give a first section, which is common for all the students. Based on how the student has performed in the first section, your second section will be decided, or the questions in the next section will be decided, right? So if you have, for example, done a 18 out of 20 question correct in the first section, your data set might be more difficult as compared to someone who got, let's say, 10 out of 20. Their data set or the next set of question in section 2 would be much simpler, right? So that's what the test adaptive nature is. And this is going to be sectional adaptive and not question-wise adaptive. That means the first section will be common, and then it's going to adapt based on how the students are performing. So this is a very important point. Scores will be released sooner, obviously, because it's an online test. Going forward, it will be released much faster. Currently, it happens in almost about 10 to 12 days. Going forward, it might happen in about 3 to 4 days, like ACT, which happens now. So exam happens on Saturday, and you have the results by Wednesday late night or Tuesday late night. That's how quick these results would be. The other change, which is not mentioned here, that SAT will also increase the frequency of exam, and SAT will start happening 7 times a year. That means you have more opportunity to write the exam, right? So I think these are the major changes which are happening in SAT. Now, that's another call that you will have to take in the next 1 year. Would you prefer to take the existing structure, which is known, a known territory, or would you be comfortable waiting for another 1 year and then do it after a new year when the changes have happened, which is going to be slightly tricky because nobody knows how that's changes would look like and how it will affect the scores, right? So I think that's one call, which is an important call as a family that you will have to take about the SAT. Yeah, so that's about the latest changes. With that, let me move on to the next component, which is very, very important about the AP exam. I'll try and go a bit quickly here. I have a lot of slides to cover, but the idea here is, once the subject ST went away, there, as Procedure has just mentioned, right? In college application, the more objectivity you have, the easier it is for you to get that admission, right? As simple as that. So you have your IB scores, you have your SAT or ACT scores. If you also have, let's say, your AP scores, right? It brings more objectivity to your application. It showcases the rigor that you have shown throughout your academic career. So that is where the AP comes into picture. There are college level exams which are taken in high school. So you could take it after grade 9 summer, grade 10 summer, or grade 11 summer. They're offered only once a year, which is in the month of May. That's very, very important from the planning perspective. It's unlike SAT, AST, which happens so often. This happens only once a year. There are roughly about 38 AP subjects that one can take from, which are further divided into 7 major categories. And these are the major categories. There is arts, English, history, social science, maths, computer science, sciences, AP world language, and culture. So these are 7 major subcategories, out of which there are 38 subjects under each of these categories. Now, why should I write it, right? Why should I write this exam? That's a big question. And I think it's very, very important to answer that, right? One of the major reasons why people should write it or people are writing it, because they want to stand out in the college admission process. It is becoming difficult day by day because of universities saying they're going test optional. The number of applicants who are applying to these universities have skyrocketed. Earlier, people used to just check the average SAT score, they check their score. Based on that, they will calibrate whether I should apply to this college or not. Now, because they've gone test optional, there is no calibration which is happening, right? Because they don't give out any data point saying, my average IB score intake is this, right? So because there is no such calibration, people are not very clear in terms of whether I should apply or not. And in that case, people end up applying, right? And when there are so many applicants who are applying, you want to make sure you are easing the work of the admission officer who is sitting there. And that you could do by doing this extra exam by giving them another data point. That's one. You actually earn college credit if you do APs. However, it may not be that relevant for the Stonehill students because you are already doing IB courses and you get credits for the courses, at least for the HL courses that you are doing in school as well. But this is an important case in point for students who are coming from CBSE, ICSE, or state boards, right? So it helps you to earn college credit. So that is one reason why people write it. It helps you to obviously graduate early. If you have earned more credits early, you can actually graduate in about 3.5 years as well instead of 4 years. It obviously helps you to save cost because gaining credits through AP exam is much cheaper as compared to going abroad and then gaining the credits from there. So that's one of the reasons why people are writing it. Some people are also writing it because they want to strengthen their profile and help them to earn scholarships and awards, right? So that is also one of the reasons. So I think one of the reasons that I would like to add why you could write AP exam is, for example, if there is a student A and he or she is doing IB, math, HL for that matter, right? And for some reason, you have not been able to perform to your potential. You know that you are a 7-on-7 student, but for some reason, maybe you fell ill, maybe something happened in the family. For whatever reason, your score currently is at 5-on-7, right? But you want to apply to a college which is slightly maths heavy. So what you want to showcase to the college is, there were some challenges which I had faced and because of which I could not perform. But here is my AP calculus score, which is 5-on-5, which showcase that I'm good at math, right? So for some reason, if in case your grade 9, grade 10, grade 11 scores in any particular subjects is not good, I think you can cover that up by giving an AP exam and showcasing that, that happened, I could not do well because of an XYZ reason. But here is the proof of my expertise in this particular subject, right? So that's the biggest advantage or the reason why people who are studying in IB can also look at AP examination, right? In terms of structure of the examination, it's roughly about 2 to 3 hours long, depending on subject to subject. There are largely 2 sections by and large. The first one is a multiple choice question. And the second part is a free response. And this is where it's important that unlike SAT, AST, because it's a very, very content heavy exam, right? So you have to write your answer in the free response. So there are roughly about 4 to 5 questions, which is roughly about 60 to 80 marks, wherein you have to write down your answer and give the entire explanation. So it's more like your IB exam paper in itself, right? And hence the subject knowledge becomes very, very important here. How does the scaling work? So it's on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being extremely well qualified, then 4, then 3, 2, and 1. Generally, 4 and 5 are considered good. And they will, most of the colleges will give you credits based on if you get a 4 or a 5 on 5 in your AP score. Anything less than 5 is not good. So if in case you are taking it as procedures already mentioned, the moment you are registered on College Board, your data is available with the colleges to see, right? So if you're registering, don't just register and just do it and get a 3. Try and make sure if you've registered, you should get a 4, at least 4, if not 5, right? So you have to give a honest chance to it, right? Let me quickly walk you through one of the important factors, right? So a lot of parents have this question about which AP should I write, right? And what point of time should I write the AP? So this is one of the data points where it'll help you to understand. Right, so I've taken a couple of subjects and I've marked few of them with red and I think red and green, right? So red, these are the ones that you should look at this point of time. For example, AP language and literature, there's roughly about 9.3% people who get 5 on 5, it's below 10%. Now, if you look at the next data point that I have, which is, let's say if I look at the science subjects, bio, less than 10% people, AP Physics 1, less than 10% people, AP Physics C, electricity, magnetism, and AP Physics C, mechanics, almost about 41% student gets 5 on 5, right? That means it's easier to score in AP Calculus, AP Physics C, mechanics. Now, if I look at maths and computer science category, AP Calculus BC, roughly about 45% student gets a 5 on 5. AP Computer Science Principal, only about 11% student, or AP Statistics, about 16% student get a 5 on 5. Now, similarly, if you look at the next category of history and social science, AP macroeconomics is roughly about 20% students getting 5 on 5. Whereas if you look at AP world history, it's only about 9.2% students who get 5 on 5, right? So what I'm trying to showcase here, or what I'm trying to, bring the point here is all the subjects that I've highlighted in green, right? Like AP Physics, mechanics, electricity, magnetism, calculus, all these subjects are well scoring subjects, right? There are almost about 30, 35, 40% students getting 5 on 5. That means it's easier for you to also score a 5 on 5 in these subjects. And hence, these are the subjects that you can target, right? On the other hand, the subjects that I've shown with red, wherein the chances of getting 5 on 5 is less than 10%, these are difficult to achieve. So while you are picking up the subjects, obviously you have to look at your interest area. You have to look at other factors in terms of what colleges you are applying, what degree you are applying, and all of that. But at the same time, you have to be smart enough to figure out where can you score better and where other people are doing well, right? So that's the point which I was trying to drive out of this. Now, this is an important site. So what I'm trying to see here is you can find a right major and career. If you go to AP college site, you can choose your major, you can choose your subject area. Let's say I've chosen science, maths, technology. I can select my engineering, or let's say what I want to do, right? So food science, geology, industrial, marine, material. Let me pick mechanical engineering for the point case here. If I want to go and click on see results, it'll basically, what it does is it'll tell me for mechanical engineering major, these are the 8 AP courses that you can look at, right? And these are the 7 career options associated or very close to mechanical engineering, whether it's mechanical, aerospace, industrial design, sales engineer, computer hardware engineer, all of them can do these 8 AP courses, right? So this is one of the link which is very important. Post webinar, we will send out a mailer wherein we will share this link as well, wherein you can go on your own based on the major that you would like to pursue. You can figure out what are the APs that you can target. So that becomes one data point. I have already told you how the scoring works. So that becomes another data point. The third data point is how the AP credit policy work, right? So I can select based on the college. So let's say if I have a list of 10 college, let's say for point case, let me take a Stanford, right? So if I put in Stanford here, it'll tell me what are the APs which are accepted by this university and how does the credit policy work, right? For example, if you look at it, point in case here, you have AP Calculus AB, BC, right? So if you In AP Calculus BC, if you get 4 out of 5, you get 8 credits. If you get 5 out of 5, you get 10 credits. And these are the equivalent courses. What do this refer to? Let's say if in case you get in AP Calculus BC, if you get 4 out of 5, you get 8 credits, and you can skip your Maths 19 and Maths 20 course. That means you can skip the Maths courses in 2 semesters. If you do AP Calculus BC and you get 5 on 5, you get 10 credits, and you can actually skip 3 courses, Maths 19, 20, and 21. That means in the first year and the third semester. So first, second, and third semester, you don't have to do any of the math courses. So this is another important link wherein you could go, write down, search for the college that you wish like to apply, and figure out what APs do they accept, right? So you can figure it out based on the colleges you want to apply. You can figure it out based on the major you wish to apply. You can also look at the data points in terms of where the scoring is easy, and then take that call about the AP, which AP to pick, right? I hope this probably has helped, and we'll obviously share the link with you guys as well. With that, I think this is the last slide for AP, which talks about how do you ace the AP test. Start well ahead of time. It's not as easy as ST or ST because it's content knowledge. You have to choose the right subject. You have to find the right material. You have to do a lot of practice tests, the full length practice test. Make sure you maintain your schedule because the exam happens only once a year. So timelines becomes very important. Ask for help. Take help with your seniors, school teachers, and study in group. I think that's going to help because you don't have too many resources available. So I think that will also help. With that, let me move on to the next one. I think if you remember, we had talked about that we will discuss about the testing timeline. Let me quickly look at this, right? How does the journey, a student journey looks like, right? So you could have, the student could be in grade 9th or grade 10th or grade 11th or grade 12th right now. So these are the 4 years which are very, very critical for the student in terms of college journey, right? So in grade 9th, a student can obviously look at writing their PSAT or started preparing for PSAT. And they can also start preparing for AP exam for writing the AP in when they are towards the end of 9th grade or early 10th grade in May, right? So that could also be an option. When they come to grade 10th, I think they should definitely start doing the SAT or AST, at least write the diagnostic test, see where you stand, talk to experts, and figure out, can you start your prep, right? The ideal time to write your SAT, AST first attempt is either towards the end of grade 10th or early grade 11. When I say early grade 11, if you remember the timelines, there was a May and August. So May obviously not work because you will have your 10th boards. August is the perfect time when you are getting into 11th, you've finished your 10th board. That's the perfect time for you to write your first attempt for SAT. The reason is very clear, right? Because IB is very, very difficult, right? I'm talking about the DP, right? There's a huge jump from MYP to the DP program, right? So just to make sure that in August your IB DP would not have picked up so much, if you are able to make sure that you are done with your STST by that time, you'll be sitting at a very, very sweet spot at that point of time, right? So ideally, if you can do it by August, nothing like that. And to write it in August, you have to start preparing early in grade 10th itself. You can't wait for your boards to get over, which is May, June, and then spend only 2 months to write the exam. Then obviously it's not going to happen. Even the October will not happen. Then the earliest that you can write it is in December. And hence, I said it's very, very important for you to plan this thing correctly, right? When should you do it? Should it be 9 summer, 10 summer, 11 summer? When should you do it, right? If in case, as I mentioned, if in case you're a US citizen, you also have to write the PSAT in grade 11, which is NMSQT. So that comes in when you are in grade 11th, right? So that is also something you have to put time for that. And obviously every year you're focusing on your AP prep as well. If in case you decide to do it, if in case you decide that you don't have to do it in concordance with your the counselors, then you can skip that part completely. But if in case you have to write it, you have to plan it well ahead of time, because as I said, AP happens only once a year. Once you come in grade 12, towards the end of grade 11th, you're doing few APs, but apart from that, your major focus is only and only on college applications. Only if in case you are late to the party, then maybe you might want to rewrite your ST or AST just to improve your scores. So you might have 1 chance or 2 chance left in grade 12 to do that. It's definitely not recommended. Ideal case, finish it off early grade 11. If not, by second semester of 11, you should be done with it. And you should have moved with your college application, because that's going to take a lot of your time, right? So that's how the entire testing journey looks like from grade 9 to grade 12. And we are happy to, sit one-on-one with you guys to help you understand more about this journey and, help you plan out better for your child. Uh, with that, let me move on to the next slide. And this is an important slide that I've just kept because, a lot of people say, hey, I'm not very sure that I'm applying to US or not. Should I still need to write SAT? So for this, I've just added this slide. So colleges in India which are accepting SAT scores. So this is the list of few universities, few top universities in India, which are accepting SAT scores now. So even point in case, if you're looking to stay in India for your undergrad, and if you're looking at any of these universities, then you might still want to consider SAT, right? Ashoka University, Azim Premji, Flame, Kriya, Plaksha, Shivnadar, Shristi School of Design, SRM Institute of Science and Technology. And they're already adding more as we are talking, right? So there are almost about 40 plus universities which are affiliated or associated with College Board now, which have started accepting SAT scores for Indian citizens, not for US citizens. I'm talking about the Indian citizens, right? And hence it's important to look at this SAT prep journey, not just from US perspective or not just from Canada scholarship perspective, not just from Italy perspective, but also if in case you are looking for India as a geography, you should probably explore SAT a little bit more. Now, I think the last two slides, I'll quickly walk through at Revisor, what is the pedagogy that we use or deploy for our STST training. The framework or the pedagogy still remains the same irrespective of what program we do, be it APST or ACT. So I'll just walk you through one of them. We divide the training program into 4 components. We call it as phase 0, 1, 2, and 3. Phase 0 is where we do a diagnostic test for ST and AST just to figure out where the child is. For the child to understand what these tests are all about, and we help the child to take that call whether they should go ahead with SAT or ACT. That's one. Then we move to phase 1. In phase 1, it's all about classroom training and the assignments. There's roughly about 50 hours of classes that happens for maths, reading and writing component. And after every session, there are dedicated assignments that you need to do to make sure any concept that you've learned, you have also mastered that concept and you're good to apply those concepts. Once that gets done, you move to phase 2, which is largely a speed and accuracy phase, wherein you're doing a lot of sectional tests. You get a dedicated mentor assigned to you. This mentor will look at all your score performance, all your assignment scores, and based on that, help you make a study plan on a weekly basis, which is very, very personalized to figure out if, let's say, a child is not doing well in reading, then your plan would look very different as compared to someone else who is slightly struggling with the writing section, right? But this is the point wherein you are doing a lot of sectional tests and trying to make sure you achieve your sectional tests desired scores. Once that gets done, you move to phase 3, which is largely about the mock test. You have learned the individual concept, you have mastered the speed. Now what you're doing is you're putting everything together and you are testing your endurance, right? Because it's a 3-hour long test. You have to sit for 3 hours. So we will be giving you about 15 to 20 mock tests, wherein you'll be sitting and doing these tests in the timed environment. Once the test is done, you get a detailed report. The mentor sits with you, helps you analyze your scores, and based on that, tell you what are the next steps that you need to do. That's the 3-phase approach or a 4-phase approach that we follow. And that continues until you write your SAT or ACT exam. Obviously, we help individually to figure out the timelines, which is very, very critical component of this entire prep. It's very personalized in a way because, for every child, their goals are different, the timelines are different. So it's very important to sit with your mentor and figure out when should you write it and how should you plan it out, right? That is how our pedagogy works. This is the full program, which is the SCT full training. Apart from that, there are a couple of other options we also provide, right? So there are students who would probably are already good at it. So we don't want them to, go back to a regular standard training. They could just take something like a 10 practice test module, wherein they're just doing the practice, they get a detailed report analysis from us, and, they get the feedback after the test, right? So there is that option as well. The idea here is we want to save time for the student, right? So if they need something very specific, then this is the specific available. You could just do English only program, you could just do reading only program, maths only program. You have all those options available. You have a study plan wherein you say that I think I don't need the classes, maybe I just need a mentor who can guide me and all the material, and I'll do it on my own. Then there's a plan available for those students as well, which is a study plan. Right? So you have different ways in which you could probably do it. There are different options available already, right? With that, it brings me to the end of the presentation that I had. And I've tried to cover everything. I know I've taken a little bit extra time. I said I'm going to spend 45 minutes, but I think I've taken almost an hour. I hope it's worth your time. I'll open the forum for Q&As now. If in case there are any questions that you have, please put it in the chat section, and we can start taking up the questions from here. Okay, I have one question. I'll probably start with that. And while I'm taking that question, if you guys have any further question, please put it in the chat section. My son studying in D1. Should he take his SAT this year or next year for a fall 23 admission in the US or Europe? Oh, okay. Fall 23. Okay. He should do it as soon as possible, right? Because he hardly has time. So I think he should do it as soon as possible. As I said, the best thing to do it is early grade 11th, but I'm assuming he's towards the end of grade 11th now. So the next exams which are available now is in the month of May, August, and October. These are the only timelines which are available, because his college application actually will start by about August, September.
Right. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. I'm dropping my number if in case you need any further assistance with that.
Yeah.
In the chat section itself. And if in case there's something, please feel free to reach out on this number as well.
Rajdeep, can we also put in a link for the diagnostic test?
Definitely, Prasija. Yeah. So what I was thinking, right after the webinar, in the next half an hour, we will be sending the webinar link, the recording. We'll also be sending the ACT diagnostic test link. Would that be okay, or should we put the link here?
Be fine. That should be fine.
That should be fine. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. I have next question from Dikshita here. Can you please put the Zoom link in the email after the meeting? I'm assuming you're talking about the recording, the Dikshita. We will
recording,
be doing that.
We will send it via Managed to all the parents, so you can access it from there as well. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Great. I have another question. Do universities in UK and Europe require SATs? I'll let Prasija ma'am to handle this question.
No, generally in UK and Europe, they don't require. However, as I said, there are certain universities in Europe, for example, Stockholm School of Economics or Bocconi University in Italy or IE University in Spain. They have been, looking at SAT scores favorably. Like with Bocconi, there is a clear requirement that they ask for SAT. Otherwise, the UK universities don't ask. We have had students who apply to Oxbridge report their SATs and AP, and it has been a great, because as we know, Oxbridge and UK universities are very academic and grade focused. The more numbers and the more data you give, it just becomes, the candidate becomes more desirable. So we have seen 100% success rate in students who have reported the AP or the SAT or ACT to Oxbridge, Imperial, and London School of Economics. Like these four, we've seen a clear, turnout in the offer, or at least a university, they've been invited for interviews. So I know that definitely that has worked in our favor. So if you have a great SAT, good SAT score, above 1550, above a 1540 plus in your SAT, or a 34 plus in your ACT, and a 4 or 5 on your AP, go ahead and report it for your UK on your UCAS. It will definitely yield positive results. Yeah.
Great, thanks. We have another question. I think again this is for you. Is Stonehill SAT ACT testing center?
No, we are not. Not
yet,
as of now, we are not an SAT ACT center. So, but we are in conversation with the officials. So, hoping for the best. We hope to see some positive response in the months to come. Yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't really matter. I mean, we are fortunate that in Bangalore we have many centers, and I'm sure Prasija would.
That was one reason actually when we applied for the SAT, and I've been scouting for this the last 4 years. Since I've joined Stonehill. The only reason that they've been giving me is there are enough and more centers in Bangalore that College Board is not willing to add another center. So we
Bangalore is the only place,
to get there to visit the school, and they all like it, and we are in in that you call the waiting list sort of a thing. So we were. If I have to just say that we were the 2019 pre-COVID and 2020. We were the only SSD coordinator, SSD center for SAT in Bangalore. So SSD is students who have disabilities and students who need accommodations. So for them, we are the assigned SSD center. But yeah, we have to see how that goes, in the months to come. But we are planning for a full-fledged or administering the ACT, SAT, and the AP. There is conversation going on. Let's see.
Great. Thanks for the answer, Prasija. Any other questions? Please feel free to ask. I think my colleague will also drop their Calendly links here for you to block a meeting one-on-one if in case you would like to discuss something personally. I think the numbers are already there on the screen. You can call them up, set up the meeting. That's also fine. Any other questions? Okay, we got another question. Thanks for it. My son is in M4. Can he take PSAT to see where he stands score-wise without preparing?
Yes, Sunita, I think you should have received an email back in December asking for registrations for PSAT. So if you have registered for PSAT, we are administering in the month of March. Coming week, the Monday, and between this Monday to Friday, you will get emails about the next steps on where to report, how to report, the practice tests, and all of those things will follow in coming the following week.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Perfect.
Yes, I did.
Sunita has confirmed that she did. Yes. Thanks, Sunita. And I think to answer the question, yes, my general recommendation to every child and the parent is please don't prepare for PSAT. When I say prepare, as in don't take external help for PSAT. Do it on your own, right? Because you want to be fair and understand where the child is at this point of time without any external help, right? Maybe the child is already there, right? You don't need any external help. So please don't put him into any external help for the PSAT. My humble request.
Right. Thank you.
Welcome. I have another question here. My son transitioned to M5 from CBSE in September 2021.
M5 is grade 10, Rajdeep. M5
grade 10, yes.
Grade 10. Okay, yeah.
Got it. Can he start doing the diagnostic test without preparation and then start the studies? Definitely, Jyoti. So, diagnostic, as I said, is more like a PSAT, right? You don't kind of prepare externally for it, right? You just write the diagnostic just to understand where the child is at the current level. And, it's testing your basic maths and English skills, right? Which is only till grade 10th level maths or English. So it's not like he would, I would say 95% of the content he would have already covered in school, even for maths, right? So I think he can definitely write it without any preparation. He should write the diagnostic just to understand and get the feel about the exam at least. So yes, I think you can definitely do it. Great. I hope that answers the question, Jyoti. Okay, I got another question here. Is self-prep for SAT, AST advisable? Very interesting and great question. And, I would like to answer this question in, I think, one thing, right? So can you do it on your own? You can definitely do it on your own, right? And I think it's a trade-off about the time that I see, right? It's not a very difficult exam. Let me be very, very honest. It's a very straightforward, simple exam, right? I think the trade-off here is, when you take help from the expert, anything that a child would do, let's say in 200 hours, maybe this expert might be able to do it in 75 hours. So it's a trade-off about the time. If you have that much of time to do the research on your own, figure out the right resources, right material, and do it. And I think you should do it on your own. Khan Academy is the best place. You have 10 papers available there. You have enough practice material there. You can use that resource to, at least start off. But then you will obviously, once you start doing it, you'll realize maybe the level is not there up yet. And so you'll need another practice test and so on. But yes, you can definitely do it. I think it's a matter of time, right? So let's say if some experts might help you to reach to the same level of score in 100 hours, you have that 100 hours left. Can you utilize this 100 hours in something else? Maybe your CAS activity, maybe your IAs, maybe your EAs, maybe profile building, because the time is limited here. What we all are trying to do is we're trying to help the child to do what is good for the child in the limited time frame, right? And hence, I would say, please take that call about seeking a help from outside or not, or doing a self-prep purely based on the number of hours that a child and parent can commit to it. That is my simple answer, because it's a very simple, straightforward exam. I would be more than happy to share all the free available resources which are available in the market. Anything that you would like to add, Procedure, to this?
As a counselor, my take is when we do a diagnostic test, we see a benchmark score. If the student is between, the 1350, 1400 range, we know that the student has conceptually mastered, the things. It's just the test taking strategy and more practice that will improve, or, the errors that the student is, maybe careless error or time management errors is what, causing the loss of marks. so that the student can fill up based on doing a time practice and giving more practice. So again, as I said, is the student self-motivated? If the answer is yes, do it on your own. Does the student has a very clear focus on, this is my target score, these are my universities, how do I reach that? The child is able to analyze it on his or her own, great, go do the test. But when the student comes with a diagnostic score of 100, 1100 or a 1200, and they target for a 1400 and 1450, then everything comes into perspective, that do we have the time, do we have the resource, do we know how to figure it out, do you know where the resources are, am I self motivated enough to put that time? Honestly, the parent and the child is able to take most of the answers you will get in black and white, and then based on that you reach out and take the help, right? If the student says no, I don't have the money and the time, fair enough, then you put your you look at a free resource, dedicate that amount of time and get to get to your closer to your target score, right? So my answer is very simple: look at your diagnostic score, how far you are to your target score. Second, are you self-motivated enough to take the whole responsibility on your own, part two. And also the third is do you understand the concept? Is it the time that is taking you're losing marks because of time, or is it the concept itself, or is it that you do your practice test score gets you a good score, but when you write an SAT, there is actual exam, there is a big deviation. Is that something that we're experiencing? So to answer these questions, sometimes students come and sit with me, but I always put them in touch with experts in the market, and I know many of them who will be able to specifically handhold the child in that area, right? So these are my 3 pointers. Yeah, but on a blanket statement, the student can prepare on its own. Yes, we've had students who got the 1580s and the 1600s with self preparation because they were one self motivated. They knew what they were doing. They know how to analyze, practice twice, evaluate thrice, and I mean they crack the code, right? So for many of them, that's not possible for various reasons, because we have priorities, time issues, cash, other things. So then it's always, if you feel that you work well with a mentor, then please seek out for help. That's my approach.
Yeah, just another point which I forgot to mention, and I think while Prasija was saying this, I think one word that comes to my mind is structure.
Yes.
So organization like Revisor will bring in structure to the prep, right? Just by the virtue of being in the program, you will end up doing things that you have to do, right? So to that point of Prasija, right? Are you self-motivated? And can you stay motivated for that long until your exam, right? You might be motivated in the first 2 weeks, 1 month, and that's the problem that we all face, right? So when we start something, you're highly super motivated, but after a point of time, it starts going down, right? So you just need somebody to keep nudging you in that direction, keep reminding you, this is the end goal. We need to get there, get there, get there. I think based on that, if parents can play that role, nothing like that, I think then you can definitely do it on your own. Great. I have another question here. And this probably is directed towards the school. Will PSAT, which will held next month, going to be held in Stonehill?
Sorry. Yes, we are going to be. It is in Stonehill, face to face. We have already received the material, so that's why I said the next week you will get, in the due course of the week, you will get more information on that. Yeah. And I've got one more. Yes, the links provided here are already there on the managed back invite email, Ms. Jyoti. The invitation email that I sent, there is a link for consultation, and there I think the SAT diagnostic link is here. But when I send you the recording and when we send the emailer, you will have these links in that as well.
Perfect. Yes, Jyoti, we'll try and provide all the links to Prasija, and maybe it will be provided on the managed back as well. From our side, we will send out the mailers for all the registered parents that we have received.
Sure, sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah.
Great. Any other questions before we close this? I know we have extended it by almost 15 minutes. We have taken extra 15 minutes of your time. Okay. We don't see anything coming. Great. I think with that, I would like to thank all the parents for being patient enough for the last 1 hour 15 minutes and listening to this. I hope it was a valuable 1 hour wherein you probably would have gotten some information out of it, and I was able to candidly give all the advice that I could. Thanks a ton, Prasija ma'am, for giving us this opportunity to talk to the parents, and I hope it was a meaningful session. for the parents. And I hope we can keep doing more often to make sure, everyone is well aware and, plan these test prep journey really well.
Sure, perfect. Thank you so much, Rajdeep, for doing this. This is really informative. I also have made certain points in terms of the latest SAT changes and, who should take and why, especially the AP was really an informative session. I mean, I have attended AP session, but they've been quite elaborate, but this is succinct and clear, and I took my takeaways. I hope the parents have also taken the takeaways. It can get overwhelming when everything comes at once. So for all the parents, I am here in school, you all have my email ID. Please feel free to write to me or schedule a meeting with me. If we will definitely be working further on the college guidance process. So this is one such resource session. So stay tuned for more such sessions from Rajdeep and his team and other resources. So thank you so much for joining us on a Sunday afternoon. Really appreciate it and hope you found this session very informative. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.